I am the youngest of 7 children, and we range 15.5 years apart. So Diane, Doug, Debbie, Donna, Dar, Dean, and Denise. As you can tell, we were all D's. Dean and I, being the youngest, were named after our parents. Our first names were Leonard and Doris, and we went by our middle names in life, though. Mom and Dad were always told that if you name your children after yourself, you'll finally stop having kids. I was born in the old hospital of Cottonwood, Idaho in 1962, August of 1962, to Len and Dory Kuther, who they were both born and raised in the Ferdinand area. My oldest siblings, you know, because they were considerably older than me, they used to babysit Dean and I. They would take us on dates and they watched us all the time. Mom and Dad would travel a lot, and a lot of times they'd leave all of us kids actually, and they had a lot of responsibility for us. You know, I grew up in a family that was very Catholic and very loving. You know, we were a family that didn't share a lot of, you didn't say I love you all the time, but I think that was in those times. But you always knew you were loved, and you knew, you know, our family was pretty close. When we would get together for the holidays, my oldest siblings would bring their kids, and they were only like 10 and 12 years younger than I. So that was always fun because they were like little sisters or little brothers that I never had. So I was actually closer in age to them than I was to my siblings. So I kind of was in the middle. I was like their oldest sister. Oh, as a child, I would say I was more of a tomboy. We hung around the neighbor kids a lot. We played outside constantly, a lot of times in the winter, but mostly in the summer. And we ran all over town. One of my favorite memories as a child, with growing up with my parents, they would sit downstairs and watch TV in the evening a lot of times, and my dad would sit kitty corner in the couch, and I'd just curl up to him and felt so safe and comfortable all the time. And he was one that all of us girls felt like we were his favorite. Another thing Dad would always do is when we would come up for school, come up the stairs, he'd always say, "Good morning, Mug." And I tried to pass that on to my kids. I don't say it as much to them to their face, but I always do try to text them. Dean and I were classmates after first grade. And a lot of people always thought we were twins. Of course, that sounds like we are. But all our years growing up, we got along great. We never had any fights, I mean, I don't remember ever fighting. Probably the only thing that ever happened is during speech one time, we had to get up and tell a convincing and something that frustrated us. And he got up there with this piece of paper wrapped up, and he said, "When my sister keeps spit from her toothpaste in the sink," was his most frustrating thing. And of course, we were in the class with boys and girls, and maybe guys I wanted to date, who knows? It was really not very exciting. Anyway, he did that, but other than that, we got along great. I would say the hardest thing that I've ever had to deal with in my life was the loss of my brother at such a young age, and the fact that he was truly my best friend. And he died in 1984 when Dean died. She just came in and held me. So it was very special because Mom wasn't a real touchy, lovey person. You know, my mom, she was a very strong woman, and as the mother of 7, she was a very good cook, and she cleaned, but there were times when she would lead us to believe that she probably could have enjoyed being in a business profession of some sort, because she told all of us girls at one time or another how she was very blessed that we all got to have that opportunity. I was blessed to get one of the few jobs in the community, and that was as the clerk treasurer of the Cottonwood School District. I started part-time, and I also worked with my dad in real estate because I had taken some online courses. So I did part-time with the school in the mornings, and then I did the afternoons with my dad, which was a true blessing, working with him side by side and seeing him in his later years at work. I also, let's see, then I went to full-time probably about after a year. And then I've been there ever since, so it's been 31 years. I really truly enjoy what I do. I do feel accomplished when it comes to my job because I feel like I know what I'm doing. I should after 31 years, right? But it is something I enjoy, and it's not the same thing all the time. It tends to give me a challenge. Overall, I have had 5 superintendents, all of which have been very good. And I've enjoyed the people I work with, great teachers, great staff. And we are a very positive crew. We've kind of learned through experience that it really truly is the only way to be is positive, because it's your attitude that makes a difference. Let's see, I met Roy. Gee, I never really met Roy. We knew each other all our lives. So first time we dated, I was just right out of high school. And, you know, I always had a crush on him. I always thought he was very handsome. And I can't say that at the beginning I was ready for falling in love. So I went off to college and had to do my own thing for like 8 years. But in January of 1988, we started dating seriously. And it only took 5 months before we got engaged. 3 months later, we were married. And no, I wasn't pregnant, obviously, because 2 years later, Kaylee came.
Now we just got home. Denise got her coat off. We just finally got her Kaylee home from the hospital. She's been there for 2.5 days under the lights. We had her home one night and then had to bring her back for 2.5 days. Wasn't much fun, but now she's finally home with us.
Kaylee's our oldest child. Beautiful, beautiful baby, dark, dark hair, dark, dark skin, and oh, everybody was madly in love with this child, especially Mom and Dad. But she came in 1990, and then we had Kyle in 1993. Get out of here.
Well, we're a week overdue.
Go away.
Come on.
Hi.
Isn't she a sexy thing?
And he was about as bald as they come, just the opposite of Kaylee. And so they were about 3 years apart, got along good. And then we tried for quite some time to have Kristen. We really didn't know if it was a boy or a girl. I had some problems with my pregnancy in the sense that she was breech. And so when I went to the doctors, they would do ultrasounds, and Roy was with me all the time, and he never wanted to know if it was a boy or a girl. On the final one, he couldn't make it to the ultrasound, and So the doctor had asked me, do you want to know if it's a boy or a girl? And I thought there was no harm in that because it was just me and I wasn't going to say anything. So I did. I found out that it was going to be a girl. And so when I got home, Roy quizzed me on it and I couldn't lie. I told him I found out what it was, but I wouldn't tell him. So he just assumed that meant it was going to be a boy. Anyway, it was a girl, and we were both very tickled after it was all said and done, just like with the others. The baby has a name, right?
Kristen has a name.
There's my 3 little angels. Oh, she's getting a kick out of you, Kaylee. She likes you.
Yeah, I know.
Roy's always been a very good father. He loved playing with kids. That is probably the thing that he loved the most is harassing them and playing with them on the ground when they were little. And as they got older, he challenged them to be better people. Roy always let the kids know that he believed in them and he was proud of them, and has always had a really strong faith, which I'm drawn to. And in the years later, it became even that much stronger. As far as becoming a mother, we grew up in an area where everybody had kids, and I've always been around kids, so I always knew I wanted children. And of course, it was a beautiful thing having a child. And I mean, I made a lot of mistakes, especially with that first one, and I felt like I took it out on her a lot. Because of course we want that first one to be perfect. And as you get to the second and third, you get a lot more lenient, but your children being a part of you and such a big part of your life. And I'm very, very proud of all 3 of my children. They all do things that they love to do, and I think that's really important. I think I get the most joy in life just spending time with my family, especially my kids and my husband, of course. But most recent, since my parents have passed away, all of us kids are doing everything we can to at least get together once a year. And so, I mean, as far as siblings and spouses, so we try to do that every summer. And that has been very enjoyable to get to know them as we get older. Yeah, there you go.
You can call that good.
You're saying you don't need any more.
I think you did good.
Ah.
Let's just hope it was on, right?